And now I'll hand the meeting over to Chair Boatwright.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am calling this public meeting to order at 4:35 p.m. In accordance with the Building Emissions Reduction and Disclosure Ordinance, Boston City Code Ordinances Section 7-2.2. The BERDO Review Board will hold a virtual public meeting at 4:30 p.m. on January 26th to review the following topics in regard to the reduction of greenhouse gases from building energy production and consumption, so as to promote the public health and welfare of Boston residents. In accordance with the Massachusetts Executive Order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, we are conducting this public meeting online. The public may access this call through Zoom or telephone. For the record, I am Jessica Boatwright, Chair of the Board, and I will now conduct a roll call of board members. Board members, please say your name on the order that they appear on the slide. I will hand it to Board Member Ellis.
Stephen Ellis.
Hassan Faruqi.
Lori Ferris.
Gail Lattimore.
Reginald Stovall.
Thank you. Staff will now introduce themselves.
Hannah Payne, Director of Carbon Neutrality.
Diana Vasquez, BERDO Review Board Manager.
Claudia Martinez, Environmental Partner.
Ziggy Chen, BERDO Review Board Assistant.
Thank you. And now we'll go over the agenda for today's meeting. We're going to start with a vote for one Pathway 2 building portfolio application. Then we'll continue our discussion from the last meeting on BERDO procedures. We will then do approval of meeting minutes from January 12th and hear administrative updates. And then finally, we will adjourn the meeting. So our first agenda item is a building portfolio application from Northeastern University for a Pathway 2 application. We will hear some information about the building portfolio application discussed, and then we'll vote. I will start by handing it over to Diana.
Thank you, Chair. I can provide some information about Northeastern's building portfolio application. So just some background information. This portfolio application was submitted through Pathway 2. The reason being the portfolio contained an on-site campus district energy system that uses non-renewable or CO2 emitting fuels that is located in an environmental justice population. The portfolio itself consists of 72 BERDO IDs in the neighborhoods of Fenway and Roxbury. The applicant, Northeastern University, meets all of the eligibility criteria, and the application was deemed complete by staff. I won't read the standard conditions. Those are just the conditions that are standard with any approval of a building portfolio. I think next slide. So as I mentioned, Northeastern University is the applicant or the owner. They are using College University as the building type for all of their buildings. So for all 72 BERDO IDs, the building type will be College University. 72 BERDO IDs is a lot of IDs, so we didn't include a table, but if you click on this link, you can see the full list of the BERDO IDs and their corresponding address. And because all of the buildings are College University, the blended emission standard will be the same as the College University emission standard. So 10.2 for the first compliance period, 5.3, 3.8, 2.5, and then 1.2 until 2050, which is 0. And because it is a Pathway 2, Northeastern had to submit these environmental justice maps, or these 4 maps. The little blue pin is the on-site campus district energy system. All of the other pins are the BERDO IDs within the portfolio. So this first map is the environmental justice map. This second map is the asthma prevalence map. This third map is the respiratory hazard index map. And then lastly, we have the urban heat island intensity map. And all board members should have access to these maps. I know that it's kind of small to see on a slide, but you should also have access in your folder if you'd like to zoom in as well. And then in terms of staff comments, Northeastern originally submitted this application on November 26th of 2024. In the original application, the Environment Department found 22 BERDO IDs that contained either building uses or gross floor areas that did not match what was in our our database. And the portfolio contained a standalone power plant, which is not eligible to be included as part of a building portfolio. And 3 buildings were missing reported data from previous years, and then one BERDO ID we found was just a duplicate. So staff found that original application as incomplete, and recommended sort of cleaning up the data and simplifying the maps. So after we requested those revisions, the city had a meeting with Northeastern just to make sure all the data was as accurate as possible within Energy Star Portfolio Manager, and our feedback made sense. And we received updated materials on November 14, 2025. We reviewed that application and it seemed all complete and corrected. All of the requested information and revisions were updated. So this led to a notice of complete by staff. And staff recommends approving with standard conditions. And I hand it back to you, Chair.
Thank you. Are there any additional comments from others in the Environment Department? Okay. So before I ask each board member if they have any questions or comments, I want to give an opportunity for any representative of this application to introduce themselves for the record.
Sure. Hello. My name is Jacob Glickel. I'm Director of Sustainability Operations at Northeastern University. Along with my colleagues, we're the ones, Joe Ranahan's on the call, as well as Tori Spies, where we're going to kind of manage our reporting and submission of this application. Yeah, well, as Diana put forward, we had a few kind of administrative issues. We have over 50 buildings on our central plant and in our electric subgrid. So all the data was there. We just kind of didn't have some of the buildings were missing. But we really had to kind of work those through and make sure all the addresses and IDs were all matched up. We also had one building that was removed, was demolished too, unfortunately. So yeah, thanks very much to the team for your patience to walk us through it and make sure we were doing everything correctly and getting everything verified. So I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks a lot. Thanks for being here and for your work on this. I'm gonna start to ask board members about questions, but can I just ask for staff clarification because we haven't done one of these in a little while. So board member questions should be directed to staff or to the or to Northeastern.
If there are any questions about the sort of process, happy to answer from staff side. If there are any questions that are related to anything that's better suited for the Northeastern, I think the Northeastern team can take on those questions. I hope was that helpful?
Yes, that's perfect. All right. So then I have 2 questions that I think are for the Northeastern team. One, you talked in your environmental justice plan about some large scale engagement that you had with the local community, and I'm curious, moving forward as you think about rolling out the individual projects, if you have any specific plans about how you'll engage neighbors and other stakeholders outside of the university specifically.
Yeah, Jacob, if you'd like, I'd be happy to talk about that a little bit. So before, I guess a few years back, we actually had a climate justice action plan, which was a really intensive joint effort with our community, where we spent about 18 months really getting to know each other, really understanding the priority issues around climate justice broadly, which obviously intersects closely with air quality and with energy. And we use that to inform, among other things, our decarbonization and resiliency plan, which we completed, I guess, last year now. And we brought brought members of, that had a steering committee that was really made up of some key members from Northeastern, students, faculty, staff, as well as key organizations. And the lead organization, partner organization, is Alternatives for Community and Environment. So we continue to maintain a relationship with them. They provided some input in our decarbonization and resiliency plan, and we'll continue to engage them. There's certain sort of projects which are probably more just nitty gritty, won't have as much of a direct impact. So we're not like with every single project engaging in a formal way, but certainly as we're looking at those projects that'll have larger impact, whether it's just on sort of disruption in the neighborhood, for example, as we look to implement, look at options to implement combined chilled hot water system. There's going to be more of that, and just looking at how these. So that's one. The other is how we might be impacting air quality, which is generally going to be positively, particularly as we look to decommission our central heating plant, which is now running on natural gas. And my third point is just as we look at really our demands as an institution on the grid, we're trying to really decrease our energy, particularly during peak times, to support, the overall community and the limited grid opportunity, the limited energy that we can supply on the grid at this moment in time. Did that answer your question? Do you have any?
Yes. Yeah, that was really helpful. I guess as a follow-up, I would just ask, are these projects, because I know that they vary in size a lot, but for the larger projects, do you imagine will they be bid out individually so that multiple contractors will have an ability to participate, or do you have sort of standard in-house systems for doing that?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely have standard in-house systems for our projects, but generally we're not going to be taking all of this on as one giant project. I mean, just even financially, that doesn't make a lot of sense right now. So it's going to be much more broken up. And one of the real benefits of the portfolio process here for us is that we're able to particularly look at, when we've got buildings that are where we're up against deferred maintenance issues, or where it makes strategically sense to look at a small area of campus together, that we can really focus our efforts on that. But just to your initial question, it'll definitely be spread out. And so we'll have different opportunities for different larger, smaller firms to bid on our projects.
Great. Thank you. I am gonna pass over to Board Member Ellis for questions.
Yes, and thank you, Chair. Hello to Jacob and Tori. Good to see you both.
Good to see you.
And welcome, Joe, as well. I am actually going to start. I'm not sure if this is a question for the city or for NU or Northeastern, excuse me. So I may direct this to Diana first. I'm thinking about the overall property types and how they were determined for a large institution of this size. And I was thinking about some of the other applicants that have come before the board for Pathway 2, and they've had a mix of property types that were either primary or secondary for retail, food services, and labs, and so on and so forth. So admittedly, I get that college and university is an option available to higher education institutions to pick within Energy Star Portfolio Manager. But I found myself thinking about ISEC, a property that is on, Northeastern's campus, and I'm wondering, would that not have been better for them to choose, say, the technology and science designation to maybe give them a little bit more leeway? I didn't do the math, I'll admit, but I'm wondering if it would have given them a little bit more leeway in terms of their emission blend for this portfolio. So I'll start with Diana, and then if Northeastern want to add on to that, I'm just wondering, how were those property types determined just solely to be college and university across all 72 of those properties?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, as Board Member Ellis, I'm sure you're innately aware. So college campuses tend to have like a varied amount of building types. You have dorms, you have classrooms, you have labs, restaurants. Sometimes if the university owns commercial space, they might just have like a restaurant that's not just for the students and faculty, like people from the streets can go in and eat in those establishments as well. So our BERDO guidance at the moment sort of present two options for colleges and universities. Option one being you sort of go the route of designating all of your buildings as college university, with a couple caveats being, you know, if a building is primarily if the audience for the building is primarily non-university related, that should probably be more specific to that building type. Or if the building really just doesn't fit the like university lab. So I think an example that we use for BU, for example, is the needle. We recognize that that lab is just like way more intensive than what the typical college university laboratory space is. But sort of that's option one. So if you have a gym on campus, for example, instead of selecting the building type for gym, which I think is assembly, you would pick college university, for example. Um, but with option two, our sort of second option that we present colleges and universities, you could then pick sort of based on that building specific primary use type, and and break it down from there if you'd like. So we sort of leave it up to the college or university what they think is best. Granted, you're totally right in that it requires some math and requires like doing a little bit of just a little bit of projections to see what gives you the most sort of leeway or flexibility. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that answers the question. Thank you, Diana. I guess, putting it back to Northeastern, just making sure, have you all explored if the, alternative options of breaking down those property type would have been provided you a more beneficial emissions blend? And if not, that's okay. But like I said, I was sort of thinking of ISEC and wondering, I thought ISEC was a bit more, tech savvy or a bit of a power user, but I may not know the building as much as I'm letting on. So I'll turn it over to Northeastern if you have any comments about that.
Sure. That's a good comment. We actually, so as we initially put this together, I was thinking we would break it. We basically broke it all down. And and it's pretty much a wash. Probably this way is a little bit better for us. I think a big thing is we have a lot of dorms, and those dorms are so much lower that it kind of, even though we have a bunch of lab space that's really intense, it probably kind of brought us down a little bit below what the overall college, but it wasn't very much. And to be honest, it just really getting down into like, one floor, trying to figure out how you break it down because, we have restaurant, dorm, like our student center, the first floor is all, restaurants and stuff. And then, there's store base and actually our largest dorm, International Village has dining hall on the first floor, but it's so big that it's actually less than 10% of the building space. So so that would didn't count. But ultimately, after having conversations with the city, it just made it it's much more simpler, cleaner, and it probably benefited us a little bit too. So actually, I wasn't really kind of aware that we could do that. So just really learning that we could, it really simplified it all, and it's not much of a difference
Okay.
from what it is.
Thank you, Jacob. Overall, I found the application to be relatively straightforward. I think, there still may be some lingering questions about the EJ component, which I'll pause on that. The last thing, just out of my own personal curiosity, Tori, you had mentioned that, Northeastern aiming to decommission the central heating plant. Just out of curiosity, what's the timeline for that, if there is one already? You're muted, by the way.
Yeah, so thanks. It's a little bit flexible, but looking towards probably by 2030, being able to have fully decommissioned that plant. It's a mix of approaches. So part of that is actually as our plant and particularly our infrastructure ages quickly, we're connecting to vicinity steam So we've begun to do that already north of Huntington. We're beginning to pull that down, but there will be, the Sunity steam will be able to provide the heat that or the steam that we've lost from the plant. But at the same time, we're also looking to have a combined approach where we're looking to develop out hot and chilled water systems, different districts across the sort of interior of the campus as well. So it'll be a combination of steam and maybe over time a change as well, but also the opportunity to pull in electric uses by having lower temperature hot water.
Okay, thank you. No further questions. Back to you, Chair.
Thank you. Board Member Faruqi.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you all from Northeastern. This is pretty comprehensive application. And first on the climate justice action plan, I really enjoyed reading that, and really appreciated the level of engagement on that. I know that within that plan you had said that you want to quote develop values to guide how Northeastern will address emissions that cannot be eliminated or mitigated on site. You go on to say, you'll seek to become net zero or zero net carbon by drawing down 1 ton of carbon from the atmosphere for every ton that you emit from operations, which I thought was very great and interesting. And I was curious what the status is on this effort. And if you don't have an answer now, if this is something that you can include in the emission standard compliance plan.
Yeah, so the drawing down 1 ton of carbon language that was from the climate justice action plan.
Yes.
I just remember that exact language. Well, let me go back to you on that.
Sure. Okay. Is that something you can include in the emission standard and compliance plan?
Yeah.
Okay. Great.
Yeah. Let me circle back with folks, but I think we can definitely follow up on that.
Okay. Excellent. Thanks. On the kind of workforce aspect of this, does Northeastern already have a collective bargaining agreement on, construction or renovation related projects?
I know there's like a variety. I think we should probably also follow up on that just to make sure we get the details right with the folks who are really closely monitoring and creating those agreements as well.
Excellent.
Yeah, I think most of our large projects have them, something like that, but we can get back to you on that.
Sure. Okay. Great. Thanks. My next question is with respect to the institutional master plan. I know you all just had a renewal approved, and congratulations on that. I saw that there were a number of new constructions that you were proposing, and because this is just a place where I'm unclear, are all of those new constructions going to be compliant with the net zero carbon zoning code, or will they otherwise be net zero emissions?
Yeah, I mean, I think all of the projects have to be compliant with the building code you're talking about, or the net zero carbon emissions. Yeah, I think honestly, the new buildings are, not that it's easy, but it's more straightforward. And it is in some ways a little bit easier to comply. We're also in our plan capitalizing on those opportunities to actually create more geothermal underground. So, for example, with our new multipurpose athletic facility, we'll be putting in, I think it's 46 now, wells that'll actually be under the new building.
Yes, I saw that was super exciting. So
yeah, we're excited too.
Yeah. Okay, great. Well, if the new buildings are going to comply with net zero zoning, I think that's great. I think, as you had mentioned, Tori, those are the low-hanging fruit in a certain sense. So that's why I wanted to ask about them specifically.
Yeah.
Great. I think my last question, are you all purchasing any energy for any of your buildings from the medical area total energy plant?
No.
No. Okay, great. All right. Thanks so much. Really appreciate it. No further questions, and yield to the chair.
Thank
you. Thanks. Board Member Ferris.
Thanks for the presentation. My questions have all been answered already, so thank you.
Thanks. Board Member Lattimore.
Thanks. Yeah, my fellow board members have asked some of the questions I was going to ask as well, but I do want to follow up on one issue related to the Climate Justice Action Plan because board member Faruqi talked about having read it, and I didn't see it as an attachment, or maybe I missed it. That Climate Justice Action Plan in the in what was sent out for review, but just wanted to ask a little bit more about who were the community organizations or community groups that were involved in the Climate Justice Action Plan. It talked about, various community entities being involved in
Yeah,
that.
let me follow up on a couple of these. First, I'm just the Climate Justice Action Plan doesn't exist sort of as a PDF. It really exists as on our website. Let
Okay.
me just put that in the chat. And
Thank
then
you. Mhm.
I can actually give you the link to the second link here is directly to the steering committee.
Okay, thank you.
So you'll see on there we had what's now New England Community Project, Reclaim Roxbury, ACE. Obviously, they were sort of our key partner, and Reclaim Roxbury.
Okay, thank you.
From?
I do see
Missing
them.
one.
Thank
Yeah.
you. I do see the steering committee members and the link
Yeah.
that you and can you just repeat? I think you mentioned for in response to Chair Boat Wright's question, but if you could just repeat what some of the comments and outcomes were of the community input into the climate action plan. How did Northeastern, kind of incorporate or respond
Yeah,
to
let me
comments?
just pull something up here that will be helpful. Wait, sorry. So say your question again, though. How did they?
Well, what were some of the comments and the threads, so to speak, or themes, if any, that came out of the community input in the Climate Justice Action Plan, and
Yeah.
how and if they were responded to in the plan by Northeastern?
Yeah, so just to clarify, the Climate Justice Action Plan was much broader overall than looking at building energy. So if you actually look at our website, you can get right from that first page right into the whole list of their four main goals that came out of, again, co-created with the steering committee. So environmentally healthy campuses, just community relationships, regenerative economies, and justice-centered research and academics. A lot of them do sort of touch on the energy work we're doing around BERDO, but specifically, particularly around environmental healthy campus. And one of the biggest goals there is eliminating greenhouse gases from campus, and specifically the portion around improving air quality. So things like actually decommissioning the central plant are a big part of that. There are also resiliency pieces that were relevant, so around energy resilience and the role that Northeastern can play in mitigating our demands as well on the energy grid, even as we transition off of fossil fuels. Sort of keeping people informed and engaged. That is something, and we brought. So our decarbonization plan happened so a little bit following our climate justice action plan. We did bring some folks, community partners from the climate justice action plan into that effort to help guide us as well. But those were some of the key, I'm trying to think, so I don't have the exact list in front of me. Definitely air quality, engagement, the impact just of all the work on the community. Those were some of the issues that were kind of raised. And then opportunities. I think someone here alluded to opportunities for investment in local businesses. So particularly where we've got the right scale of project opportunities, trying to open those opportunities up to smaller, local, maybe minority, women-owned business enterprises.
Right. Thank you, and thank you for the additional links and information. That's really helpful.
We actually put together a whole list. I'm sorry, I don't have it right in front of me of the most relevant ones, but we can certainly follow up with that as well.
Appreciate it. Thank you. I have no other questions.
Thank you, Board Member Stovall.
All right. First of all, before we get started, Do I have to recuse myself from the voting? Do I have to take myself out of the voting because I was in the room with the New England Community Project, and I was in the room when those meetings were taking place. So I shouldn't be voting on this, right? I'm asking you, Chairman Boatright.
Yeah, I was good. I was gonna let staff answer that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a great flag. I don't think that would cause a conflict of interest. Given that this is for a building portfolio,
Okay.
I don't think that would cause a conflict of
Just don't
interest.
want to cross the line that I shouldn't be crossing.
No,
And
no, I appreciate the due diligence. Maybe Hannah or Claudia or Ziggy, let me know if you agree with that assessment.
I think so, though I will say I had a toddler screaming in my ear while you were speaking, Reggie. So just so I don't speak out of turn, were you saying you had participated in the Northeastern Climate Justice Planning Workshop?
no, I was in those meetings, and my board was part of that. Yes, yes. So I should.
But for the climate justice plan?
I didn't make any
Yeah, yeah.
personal decisions, but I was in the room. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay. Yeah, I think I don't see a conflict there, but thank you for sharing. I think it's great to be transparent.
Okay, all right. Okay. I do remember. Okay, now I'm going to talk to Northeastern. Um, I do remember one thing that was said in those meetings. You touched on part of it, but you also said that you would do your best to hire um, some minority contractors if you could. Are you still on track to do that? That's the only question I had, and that's it.
Yeah, we haven't honestly done a lot of the implementation yet.
Because
We
I do
are,
remember being in the room and that was mentioned. That was heavily mentioned.
yeah,
It was mentioned more than once.
yeah. I can't say if we're on track because we haven't, we've done a few like we're replacing more efficient air handler kind of things. And we could look into who's been on those lists.
Yeah.
Not even sure if we've finalized the contracts for those, but that's something we can do, continue to, track.
Because you did give your word to the community
Tori,
to do that, you know.
Yeah.
could you talk about the other, not just our work, but just general project work that we're
Yeah, so as part of our IMP too, we have requirements for how many minority women business enterprises we do, and I think I don't have those numbers on hand, but I believe we report on those and gather those at least annually. So those are some numbers I think we could get for you as well. Definitely hear that is an important part, sort of the economic development part of any work and making sure that people are part of the benefits of an energy transition.
Well,
Also,
that's pretty
just
much the only
generally open
question
to,
I actually had. I just wanted to make sure I was
yeah,
transparent with being in the room and
yeah,
seeing you guys there. So, yeah. All right.
yeah.
I am good. I am finished, folks. I'm finished with my questioning. Thank you.
Great,
Yeah.
and thank you. I appreciate your thoughtfulness on that one. Um, so it would be good to. I just want to make sure that we keep things moving tonight so that we can do all the business we didn't get to do last time. But if anyone else has a burning question, please unmute yourself and chime in. Otherwise, I'll move us into a discussion about hearing. Everybody's all right. Everyone's good. So we, because of the pathway to portfolio, we can request from the applicant that we hold a public hearing. So I will ask if there's a motion to hold a public hearing. It's not a requirement, but and And my understanding is that if our questions have been answered, we can move on from a public hearing to just vote um, on the application, correct?
Hi, Chair.
Yeah.
Yes, so the board has the option either to vote to have a public hearing, in which case we invite Northeastern to come back and present on their application, um, or the board can vote to approve with standard conditions. Although I'll say I heard Board Member Faruqi make a request for the emissions standard compliance plan. This is the plan that gets submitted within 2 years of approval. So we treat requests for the emission standard compliance plan as a request, not necessarily a special condition. So it would be part of the approval notice, but it wouldn't be a condition. And I believe I don't, Board Member Fruki asked for an update regarding Northeastern's plan to address emissions that cannot be eliminated or mitigated on site. So essentially, what that would look like is within 2 years, once Northeastern submits like their emission standard compliance plan, one of the parts of that plan would be an update on that section of the climate justice action plan. If that's amenable to Northeastern, I'll let Northeastern decide, but just flagging that that's what I heard also from Board Member Fruki.
Great. All right, so I did not see a motion for a hearing. So we could I will leave the floor open for that, but our second option is a motion to approve Northeastern's application with standard conditions, understanding what Diana just said. Board Member Ellis.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Diana, for that recap. I had also written down, and I guess I'm more so curious from Board Member Faruqi's stand-in. He had also asked about the collective bargaining agreement. I don't know if that's supposed to be a request or a special condition as it relates to the overall building portfolio. And I also heard from Board Member Stovall about some concern, not concern, but curiosity surrounding what Northeastern is doing with respects to minority and women surveying enterprises. So I'm also not clear if that should be a part of a request or a special condition.
Diana.
Yeah, happy to jump in. I think in the past what we've done for similar sort of questions was sort of specifically lay out requests for the emission standard compliance plan. Um, I can help craft that motion if needed. It can be a mouthful, but it's essentially it could be something like I make a motion to approve with standard conditions and the following requests for the emission standard compliance plan due within 2 years of the approval. It sounds like an update on the Northeastern's plan on addressing emissions that cannot be eliminated or mitigated on site. And then I'm hearing um, sort of two around work, sort of like workforce related to projects, workforce use related to projects on building decarbonization. So I think those are sort of the two things that I'm hearing, and those could be sort of formal requests for the emission standard compliance plan, which we have viewed differently than a special condition. Of course, others, please feel free to chime in if I did not capture that correctly.
I'm for it.
So, all right. So, before I call on Board Member Furky, Board Member Stovall, was that you making a motion for to approve as stated by Diana Vasquez? It's okay if not. It's
that was kind of an accident.
okay.
Well, guess what? Yeah, I think that we should do that. I think that's
okay.
Because
okay.
It's going to cover everybody here. Everybody wants to know what's going to happen. So yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Okay. Great. So board, I guess I should ask for a second and then call on Board Member Furky.
Or I might
Unless he's
actually,
trying to second. Yeah.
yeah, I might suggest hearing Board Member Fruki first.
Okay. All
I
right. Oh, yeah.
I was gonna make the same motion, so I will second it right now.
Okay. I
Yeah.
was partially hoping he was going to second it. And also, I was trying to remember in Robert's rules, I thought if there was a motion on the table, you had to like seal it in an envelope before you like seal it with a second, but I might be wrong. So, anyways, all right. So we have a motion to approve Northeastern's application with standard conditions with the specifications as outlined by staff. So I will now ask board members, how do you vote? I vote in favor. Board member Ellis,
In favor.
board member Faruqi,
In favor.
board member Ferris,
In favor.
board member Lattimore,
In favor.
board member Stovall.
In favor.
The ayes have it. The motion passes. Northeastern's building portfolio application has been approved. Per the regulations, the Environment Department will send a copy of the written decision letter within 7 days. Thank you for attending and for your attention to all of our questions.
Excellent.
Good
Thank
to
you.
see you.
Thanks so much. So, no. All right, I'll keep rolling. You are welcome to stay as we move forward. Our second agenda item is a discussion and vote on BERDO procedures, which we started last time. So to continue the conversation and hopefully to get to a vote this week, I will hand it over to Hannah.
All right. Thank you, Chair. So I guess, so we have all the slides that we shared last time, and I know I walked through them in detail. In the interest of time, I was not going to go through them all, but I think we like read through them in as much detail as last time. But just to remind the board and anyone on the call, we have been, can you go to the next slide, please? Discussing a streamlined short-term hardship compliance plan proposal. And this is really to create a little bit more relief in the near term for this first emissions compliance year for buildings that we anticipate will have a little bit may face additional challenges in coming into compliance, especially if they have not reported before or are not as maybe they haven't heard about BERDO quite as much as some of the larger buildings that have been subject to this for a longer time. And to cut down on the administrative back and forth between staff and applicants who are pursuing hardship compliance plans, as well as the administrative burden for the board. So we're trying to, with this, like nail down a few things up front that the board is comfortable with. As I've stated at the last meeting, the individual hardship compliance plans that come to the board through this would still need board approval. But the hope is that the board, if amenable, is willing to vote on this, approve this, and kind of give that pre-approved or like green light to these proposals so that applicants can feel more confident that their hardship compliance plan will be looked at favorably and approved by the board. That is the kind of big picture context setting. We presented this back at the end of the year. We heard some feedback from board members. We have made a few adjustments based on that. I presented these slides at the last meeting, and I think the only change we've made, Diana, correct me if I'm wrong, is just clarifying the definition for gross revenue to be the total income an organization generates before deducting expenses, returns, or taxes over a 12-month period. That was just a clarification that was asked for. But the eligibility would be available for deed-restricted affordable housing, residential condos or cooperatives that are below the median assessed value for Boston, residential or condo cooperative buildings that have at least 50% of residents that are at or an income at or below 120% AMI, the same for rental buildings with those same income limits. as well as rental buildings with 50% or more units with rents at or below the maximum affordable rent for 120% AMI is just defined by the Mayor's Office of Housing, and then including small businesses and nonprofits with either 50 employees or fewer or less than $5 million in gross annual revenue. Next slide. As a reminder, the eligibility criteria, so that would be the first piece, is only those building types or characteristics. And then the building or building portfolio would need to be subject to the 2025 emission standard. They would need to be in compliance with the most recent reporting or third-party verification requirements. So if a building has never reported before, and they've been out of compliance, they would need to do their reporting for their 2025 data before applying for this. The building or building portfolio can't have an individual compliance schedule. And then the owner must successfully demonstrate that they have an eligible hardship by adequately completing the application and providing any necessary supporting documentation. And the owner needs to demonstrate that the ACPs would significantly impact their operations and/or ability to invest in emissions compliance efforts. So if all of those things are met, and they're in one of those building categories, then they would be eligible to apply through this pathway. And any other building that doesn't meet those criteria could still apply for a short-term hardship compliance plan, even just on their own, but wouldn't be kind of going through this prescriptive path. They'd have to come up with their own application and relief proposal. We've also included a few optional things that we thought would be helpful for our building owners to be able to highlight on their application to give the board some more information on why it might be even more hard for these buildings to comply with the emissions limits in the near term. Next slide. So with this, we've also proposed predetermined relief and predetermined special conditions. The relief that would be granted under this would be for 3 years, covering emissions compliance for 2025, 2026, and 2027. They'd have the potential to extend to 2028 upon request of the applicant and approval by the board. And the relief would be an alternative emissions standard for those years. And what we've proposed is that the alternative emission standard shall be determined by the Environment Department, calculating the average of the building or building portfolio's emissions intensity for 2023, 2024, and 2025. And then if data is not available, the emissions intensity for 2025 will be used. So really kind of setting their limit at where they've been for the past few years of their reporting, using their own data as a benchmark. After the short-term hardship compliance plan would expire, the emission standard would revert back to the applicable default emission standard unless the owner applies for and is approved for a separate flexibility measure. So that might be joining a portfolio or an ICS or applying for a long-term hardship compliance plan. The special conditions that would be applied to this would be the owners committing to fulfilling the special conditions outlined in the applicable form upon approval of the hardship compliance plan. So they'd be approving them during their application, and that the special conditions intend to demonstrate that the building owner is starting to plan for long-term BERDO emissions compliance as soon as possible, and that failure to comply with those special conditions would result in early termination of the hardship compliance plan. They'd be subject to the regular building emission standard for that year. So that's kind of the overview of them, and I think the actual language is on the next slide. Yeah. So these are the proposed special conditions. So within 12 months of approval, they'd have to engage with Mass Save and provide evidence of that. If they're eligible and it would be beneficial to them, they'd have to apply for a building portfolio. That's really just one of the things we ask them to consider all of their different compliance options. I don't expect that will be applicable to many. Within 12 months of approval, they'd have to develop a zero over time plan. This could be a Mass Save comprehensive building assessment or an equivalent assessment, and we detail what they would need to include. And then we'd ask them to complete at least one energy conservation measure within the duration of the hardship compliance plan, so they could pick what that is, but we'd want to see that they're making some progress towards reducing their emissions and energy use. We'd ask them to submit a brief progress report. That would just be like a Google form, so quite simple to submit. To do that annually to provide updates on their completion of special conditions and the implementation of their zero overtime plan. And they would be due on March 1st of every year. And then we'd also ask that they have attend at least one virtual meeting with BERDO staff. And that's really just so we can make sure that they are moving forward. We expect that these will be building owners who need additional support. So we want to force a touch point on them to make sure that they are taking advantage of all of the options available to them and are familiar with different programs related to BERDO as well. And is there a final slide? Don't remember. Okay, yep. And this is the application. We would have it be over Google, a Google form for building owners to fill out. So it'd be fairly streamlined in terms of the responses and the data we're collecting and able to share with the board. Next slide. Okay, and so that is the overview. Happy to go into more detail on any of it, but I will pass it back to the chair for questions.
Thank you. Thanks for the last both presentations. I'll now ask for questions or comments. I just have a comment. I think this is really important. I think this is a really important step, and I appreciate all the thought that has gone into it. In my experience, a number of affordable housing owners have shown a lot of responsiveness to BERDO and interest in compliance, but are subject to unique funding cycles. So I think BERDO's ability to offer flexibility when an organization can map out a commitment and a plan to access competitive funds, that they don't always have like a direct influence on when those funds are awarded. I just think it's a really important step to acknowledging, to helping them manage their properties, and also to acknowledging the goodwill that I think a number of these property owners have shown towards this administration's work in this area. So I'm really excited about what you've laid out, and I will hand it over to Board Member Ellis.
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Hannah, for the presentation. I just have two questions. First off, can we go back to the first slide with the predetermined eligibility criteria? Perfect. And thank you for adding in the asterisk. I was the one asking the question about the annual gross revenue, and just for context, and I don't need this to be something that holds us up, but I was just wondering, with the definition of annual gross revenue, I am not a business owner in any right, but I start to wonder about for small business owners that have that gross revenue of $5 million, and say they had applied for some kind of relief package, or some kind of, COVID relief package is what I'm sort of thinking about. And if that puts their revenue over 5 million, where I'm not saying that this would happen, should happen, or does happen often. I was just trying to understand the notion surrounding the boundaries that we're having set here, that are set up by OEOI, and how they handle a small business that had received a good amount of relief funding due to some unforeseen circumstance. And if they go over that 5 million, will that essentially kill their eligibility for a program like this?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I think it's a good one. And my understanding is that grants would be included, correct, Diana?
Yes. So we looked up guidance from the IRS on this. It seems federal grants are considered revenue, but federal loans are not. So I think it would depend on the type of relief.
So it'd have to be a loan, in order for that to be okay. Got it. All right. Thank you.
And
Just go ahead.
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I think the other thing that the board could consider is, we do have to make cutoffs in this just to have it be kind of like a usable, streamlined thing, but that wouldn't necessarily preclude another entity that might be right around the lines we've set
Mhm.
coming and making their own case to the board requesting similar relief and having the board consider that separately. So I just wanted to also put that out there.
Okay, so although we have an eligibility, it's not a prerequisite for them to come before the board that they need to be below that, say, $5 million essentially.
So for pursuing and applying through the streamlined short-term hardship compliance plan, yes, but for our overall short-term hardship compliance plans are still available to anyone following that same standard process that we've seen with, say, the zoo, for example, that came
Mhm.
before the board. So that option is not going anywhere. So I just wanted to remind the board of that, and that, like, if for example there is a nonprofit or a small business that is just above these thresholds and still needs relief, they could propose their own relief and come before the board and have that be considered.
Thank you. That actually leads into my second slash last question, and more so a suggestion. I figured the staff will probably do this, but hoping that, I'm looking at the relief measures or flexibility measures that have been put together in the past, and I think there used to be like a comparison chart that compares like short term versus long term, and so I'm hoping that this will be added as a sort of additional area. So like how you can compare the plans and figure out which one is best for you. So I'm just hoping that that's something that if we do approve this today, that could be added as an alternative option for someone reading all of this material to help them figure out which one is the best hard, I'm going to mess this up, hardship compliance plan, that is available to them. So that's all I have for you all. Thank you. Back to the board, back to the chair, excuse me.
Thanks, Board Member Faruqi.
Thanks, Madam Chair, and this looks great. I think this is a, very solid proposal. Um, as I've mentioned, I think last time that we had this discussion, there are a few situations in which building owners may be prevented from getting a mass save home energy assessment because they may have gotten it somewhat recently, anywhere between 2 to 3 years, or in some cases even 10 years. I'm imagining, based on the writing of this, that if they are in that situation, they can explain that to Environment Department staff, and that they would still be able to comply with this expedited process. And because in that case, they would, of course, have engaged with Mass Save. Is that correct?
Yes, correct. Right. That is why it's not explicitly saying a home energy assessment, and also just MassSafe has different programs for different building types. So there's, I don't need to get into it, but it's like their commercial and industrial program is separate from multifamily, which is separate from low income, and they all have different names for things. So we are working with our contacts at Eversource to and we'll work with National Grid as well to just try to streamline that a little bit more. But we would accept different forms of what is considered engaging with Mass Save. So we're going to try to put a little bit more definition to that in the coming months. But we are leaving the discretion up to city staff to be able to determine, yes, you have engaged in good faith, and here's the evidence of that.
Sure. Okay. All right. That sounds great. And yeah, I agree with the principle that you're putting forward here. So, no further questions. Thank you. I yield back to the chair.
Thank you. Board Member Ferris.
Thank you. No additional questions for me.
Great. Board Member Lattimore.
Thank you. I definitely appreciate the comments made by Board Member Faruqi and Board Member Ellis, and I have no additional questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Stovall.
I have no additional questions.
Okay. So I think we are moving on. Are there any additional questions?
Motion to approve to allow the Environment Department to publish the streamlined short-term hardship compliance plan application as presented.
Second.
Great. Okay. Motion from Board Member Ellis, seconded by Board Member Lattimore. So I will now call on board members to let me know how you vote on the motion to allow the Environment Department to publish a streamlined short-term hardship compliance plan application as presented compared to our last one. That is a short motion. I should have been able to get it out easier. How do you vote? In favor, opposed, or abstain? I vote in favor. Board Member Ellis.
In favor.
Board Member Faruqi.
In favor.
Board Member Ferris.
In favor.
Board Member Lattimore.
In favor.
Board Member Stovall.
In favor.
Great. The ayes have it. The motion passes. The Environment Department will publish the streamlined short-term hardship compliance plan application as presented. Thank you to the staff for your work on that. Our next item is to approve the meeting minutes from January 12th. Is there a motion? Are there any comments? Sorry.
Motion to approve.
Okay, I will second that motion. So you can vote in favor, oppose, or abstain. Any board members not in attendance should abstain. So I think that's just Board Member Ferris. Those in favor, please say aye or raise your hand, virtual
Aye.
or actual.
Aye.
All right, great. I think we are unanimous in approving the minutes. So now I will move us to administrative updates.
Thank you. Sorry. Thank you. I just want to say that we received 2 new applications for hardship compliance plans, but no new applications for flexibility measures. So we're working with the applicants to review them, and we'll notify the applicant whether their application is considered complete or incomplete. Also, the Green River Commission and the City of Boston are launching a series of recurring BERDO office hours over Zoom. So these are for Boston building owners, and they're grounded in real-world case studies from the GRC members who are already working towards net zero carbon emissions. The first session will be on February 9th, and more are planned. And the event page right now is on the BERDO website, so building owners can go on the BERDO website under upcoming events to register for those office hours. Also, we are proud to announce the launch of our new Mass Class 1 REC Connector program. This program aims to support building owners with purchasing Mass Class 1 renewable energy certificates or RECs to comply with BERDO. So to accompany this launch, the City of Boston will be hosting a webinar to introduce the Connector program to BERDO building owners. And then Green Energy Consumers Alliance, which is helping the BERDO team with this, will join the webinar to provide a demonstration on how to use the BERDO online portal to purchase these RECs. And then it will also be available for a Q&A. And this webinar will take place in over Zoom in early February, and it'll be also on the BERDO website under upcoming event as well. And then finally,
Ziggy, sorry, I didn't plan this. Can I jump in and just say one more thing on the REC Connector program? So the website has a bunch of other information about like best practices to follow on how to buy a REC. The webinar, I think, will be next week. And I just a plug for the board and an ask is if you know of BERDO building owners that are considering renewable energy purchasing for their compliance for 2025 reported in a few months, please help spread the word about this. The deadline to buy RECs through the Green Energy Consumers Alliance offering is March 1st, so it's coming up quick. So we're going to try to be doing a lot of outreach to make people aware of this and would appreciate any help on that.
Quick question, if I may, Chair.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, Board Member Lattimore. I didn't mean to say yeah.
Yeah, no problem. So thank you for that information about the REC session. And I wondered and appreciate the request to the board to help get the word out about it. Will the board get this as well as the previous item that Ziggy talked about separately, or do we have to go and find it on the BERDO website, or will we get a separate communication about these matters?
Diana or Ziggy, would that be something you could send to the board?
Yep, I can send it. I can send both event pages and
Great.
the links and everything.
Great, thank you.
Board Member Ellis.
Yes, following up on Board Member Latimore's question, thank you for sending this over. Just to confirm, so the Rex Mass Class 1 Rex connector program, do you have a date officially? Just making sure I understood because I heard next week.
So it will be next week, just finalizing the exact time, which is why I'm reluctant to just say a day in case that changes, but will be early February next week.
Okay. And going back to the last one, Ziggy, forgive me, the previous slide regarding the Green Ribbon Commission, can you give a little bit more context as to, sorry, there wasn't a slide, excuse me, it was just a statement. Can you give a little bit more context about what this is exactly, just so we have a better understanding of what it is?
Vicky, would you like me to answer that?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay.
You know what information.
So the Green Ribbon Commission is working on hosting a series of webinars that they're calling facilitated office hours, where they're having their members of the Green Ribbon Commission's membership are some of the largest businesses and institutions in Boston. So having one of their members present about a project that they've done to work on decarbonizing an aspect of their portfolio or buildings, and really an opportunity for them to share and building owners to ask that person questions about their work. I am trying to pull up on my other screen what this one is, and I will send the link with it. I believe it is a equity residential, and they're talking, well, actually, yeah, and they're speaking about, I forget what aspect. So I should know that, but I will put some more information in the chat and you can read about it. But that's the concept there is really peer-to-peer learning.
I see. So the audience will likely be different depending on the presenters is what I'm also hearing. Okay, I see you nodding. Okay, thank you. I look forward to seeing. And about how many webinars do you think is coming along this year?
I think the Green Ribbon Commission is planning like 3 to 4, I think. And then separately, the BERDO team is going to be hosting a number of just like informative BERDO webinars about BERDO process, things like that.
Okay, I look forward to the details on that. Thank you. Back to the chair.
Thank you. Board Member Lattimore, did you have another question or is your hand up from the last time?
Apologies, I didn't realize I didn't lower my hand. Sorry about that.
No problem. No problem at all. Do any other board members have any questions? There's a bunch of really helpful links going up in the chat. All right. In seeing no questions, I do want to say that I did forget to call for any abstentions on the minutes. So if Board Member Ferris would like to officially abstain since she was not present at our January 12th meeting, I'll open the floor for that.
I abstain.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. So with that, I think, oh, and sorry, we're not done. This is great.
Oh, just wanted to let you know that February 9th is our next review board meeting, and that's it for me, Chair.
As chair, I'm going to hope that February 9th is above 30 degrees and not full of snow so that I can get a little more fresh air before the meeting and we can all run more smoothly. Although I think we got a lot accomplished today. So in a short period of time. So thank you to everyone who, thanks to my fellow board members and thanks to everybody who presented and prepared for this meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So second.
Great. All right. I'm going to give that to Board Member Lattimore with the second from Board Member Faruqi. All those in favor of adjournment, please say aye.
Aye.
Or sorry, vote aye.
Aye.
Are there any abstentions? All right. I counted all of the board members, so I will not ask for any opposed, but because the ayes have it, the motion passes and this meeting is adjourned at 5:44 p.m. Thanks so much, everybody, and please be safe.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night.
Stay warm.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Goodbye.